The whole place is just a marvelous place.
It's a whole nother world.
I wish everybody could have grown up on the island.
It was completely quiet. Loved it all.
I love this place here.
The first thing to know about Burlington Island is that ownership of this piece of land has been highly sought after for centuries.
Every single group thought of that island is the most beautiful place on the river. And they've called it all sorts of names, you know, like Beautiful Island and High Island and Island of the Pines. And everybody has seen how beautiful and how special that island is.
First inhabited by the Lenape Native Americans, the island would attract Dutch and Swedish settlers by the 1600s. Originally known by the name Matinekunk, or Island of the Pines, the island was the first European settlement in New Jersey. In another first, albeit a more grisly one, the island was also allegedly the site of the first murder in New Jersey history in 1671, when a grieving Native American took the lives of 2 colonial servants. While relations were temporarily frayed between the natives and the settlers, peace was soon restored, and a new group, the Quakers, would soon land on the island looking for a safe haven.
They wanted to colonize, basically, and create a Quaker government where everybody would be able to have freedom of religion and freedom to do civically, you know, do what they preferred. And that's one of the reasons that they really disliked what Stacy was doing with the island by kicking those people out.
Prominent Quaker Robert Stacy had initially secured a lease of the island from New Jersey Governor Edmund Andros on the condition that he would play nice with the other settlers. However, Stacy quickly evicted the others, much to the dismay of even his own Quaker allies. With his approval rating plummeting and knowing the importance the Quakers placed on education, Stacy decided to turn the island over to allow all proceeds to be used for the education of the poor children of Burlington. This small move would change the direction of the island forever, as it would be the spark that led to the eventual formation of the Board of Island Managers.
The Board of Island Managers is an elected group of people who are legislatively responsible for using the assets of the island to try to offset the expense of the schools in Burlington City.
So this charter is so old. It was actually developed when you didn't have public schools. The only people that went to school were the wealthy. So it was deeded to create funding, any monies that were made from there to educate underprivileged kids.
As early as the 1850s, there were plans to connect the island to the mainland and develop housing on the south end of the island. When these plans fell through, part of the island was leased for a resort, and eventually the island became home to a new tourist attraction in 1917. Burlington Island Amusement Park, also known as Island Beach Park, became quite popular, taking in tourists from up and down the Delaware. With all sorts of rides, the amusement park was a huge success. Unfortunately, a fire in the late 20s and then another in 1934 would take out the park once and for all. Today, you can still see some remnants of what is believed to be part of the park. By 1955, one of the most interesting features of Burlington Island would start to take shape. Beginning in that year, the Warner Sand Company would start mining sand and dirt from the southern part of the island. These operations that would last until 1969 created the 100-acre lake you see today. The unfortunate part of adding the lake to the island is that it removed any remaining remnants of the early Native American and European settlements in this area. However, the lake was connected to the river on the western side, which allowed easy access for small boats and recreational activities such as water skiing. Interestingly, because of the connection to the river, Burlington City could have lost ownership of the lake and its shoreline. So they decided to close the mouth off in 1971, thus keeping the lake in city ownership. With the mining operations concluded, the sand company returned the south end of the island to the city of Burlington. Throughout the 20th century, local families began coming to Burlington Island to spend the summer months. As the years went by, this trend continued, and by the 1970s there were dozens of families on the island. In these images captured by Dennis McDonald, it's easy to see the carefree and leisurely lifestyle being enjoyed on the island. What began with tents and makeshift bungalows would evolve to near-permanent housing for many. During these years, George Schultz, who worked for the island board, would oversee operations on the island. George made sure the residents paid their summer rent and also dealt with a myriad of other tasks to keep the island thriving. Unfortunately, in 1975, Schultz would pass away, and soon the carefree life of the islanders would be changed forever.
Well, it was a real blow because we just had a great vacation, took the whole family down to Florida for 2 weeks, went to Disney World, Cypress Gardens. We came home all exhilarated, and then when we walked in the door, we picked up, the week's worth of mail, a couple weeks worth of mail that a neighbor had held for us. And in there was a letter from the Board of Island Managers, which I didn't know anything about, to be honest with you. And I opened it up, and it was an eviction notice telling me that they were going to end the lease on the island and we would have to evacuate it.
Soon after receiving the letter, Charlie and the other islanders met and decided they weren't quite ready to leave the island.
I went to negotiate. I went to city council first, and the city council president told me there was no way we were going to get our leases renewed because they were going to hold us to the zoning requirements. Well, the zoning requirements are impossible. This is a wilderness. There's no way you can have plumbing and electric and all the things you need for zoning. And they knew that. They knew that. They knew it was a wilderness. But that was just one of the tools they were going to use to get rid of us.
After back and forth meetings with the board and Burlington City Council, the Islanders were told they could once again renew leases if they made the health code concessions. That reprieve was short-lived, however, and soon the Islanders were once again told they had to leave, and the battle for the island reignited.
I collected the money, the lease money from all the Islanders. We used that to hire an attorney. So basically we were fighting the city with their own money because they couldn't collect money from us because they evicted us. If they had collected the money from us, they would have acknowledged the release.
Besides the lawsuit against City Council, the Islanders also tried to gain some seats on the elected Board of Island Managers. While the election results didn't go their way, Charlie and the Islanders weren't quite ready to give up on that idea just yet.
I went to the American Civil Liberties Union. I got a lawyer for free, and the ACLU decided they were going to take our case. And eventually we went to court, and the judge overturned the whole election. That made me enemy number one in Burlington if I wasn't already from battling.
While overturning the election results was a big victory for the Islanders, eventually a second election was run with the same outcome. Back in the courtroom, a judge would rule against the Islanders as well, and by 1979, the battle for Burlington Island was all but over. While the Islanders didn't get the desired result, Charlie has no regrets as he believes the battle took just enough time for potential development funding to dry up.
The best part of it was the island didn't get built. They had big plans, they had maps of what they were going to do, they were going to develop it, but they just couldn't afford to develop the island anymore. So it sits in its natural state, which pleases me. They may have evicted us, but at least we get to look at the natural beauty. So I've been sitting here for years at Anchor Yacht Club on the deck looking at the beauty of undeveloped natural island, knowing that the battle was worth that. We might have been looking at buildings over there.
In 40 years since the Islanders' eviction, Charley hasn't been back to the island. While the Board of Island Managers may have been his nemesis back then, times have changed. When I asked Charley if he would accept an invitation back to the island, courtesy of Island Board President Jim McCreary, Charley was more than happy to see his old summer grounds. While this day was special thanks to the return of Charley and fellow Islander Mandy Thackeray, trips to the island are nothing out of the ordinary for Jim and his gang. Most weeks throughout spring and summer, Jim brings people back and forth to enjoy the beauty of the island. Most times, the group is made up of board members, friends of Burlington Island, or various other people with ties to the island. Then there's some weeks where special guests tag along, like this week with Charley and Mandy. As we walked through the island and even bumped into some other explorers, it was pretty clear that returning here had brought back tons of emotions.
It's fantastic. I'm glad that we prevented it from being developed. It's better as a nature preserve. I really think it's a great place. Of course, there's a feeling of missing it, being away this long. This is the first time I've been back on the island probably in 40 years, so there's a little nostalgia there.
It's really emotional. It really is. I mean, I was 5 days old when I first came here, and when we left, it was, what, 78? We couldn't come back and get the rest of our stuff. We only had a couple weeks' notice, and so much was left behind. But we have the memories. We have pictures, and it was just great growing up here.
One of the coolest sights on the island is the abandoned transmitter station that used to help propel the signal of WJJZ AM radio from the 1960s until the early 80s. Besides the quiet peacefulness of the island, there's now over 4 miles of trails for hiking and exploration. While the island is currently in good hands thanks to its many caretakers, the subject of the future of the island has always been a hot topic for the region.
This is a destination, and I would love to see kids bright-eyed with adventure and learning. That experiential education, there's no replacing that.
We'd like to see the island remain natural. We'd like to see it open for STEM programming for the school children, and to remain as natural as possible. We don't want to see it developed.
Besides the Board of Island Managers, another group, the Friends of Burlington Island, is also aimed at preserving the beauty of the island.
We have 10 trustees, and 5 are from the Bristol Borough area, and 5 are from the Burlington County area. And we're in business to try to help support the Board of Island Managers to open the island responsibly to the public.
I see it as a venue where Friends of Burlington Island, with the city's cooperation and the Board of Island Managers' cooperation, to be able to safely host different groups over there.
For the future, I would like to have therapy over here in some form or way, some kind of wellness, therapeutic retreats, something like that. So just being outdoors and in nature, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful thing.
I'd like to see people just be able to come up, maybe camp for a weekend or a week, and just appreciate everything around them.
Whatever plans lay in sight, one objective most can agree on is preventing the discharge of Delaware River dredge spoils on the island.
Lifting once and for all the threat of somebody or the Army Corps of Engineers coming in, mowing down 75-acre parcel, that one should be put to rest once and for all.
Not only do the dredge spoils wreak havoc on the existing landscape, they impact future growth as well.
It takes many, many years for that tree growth to come back. And unfortunately, when it does come back, it's coming back in sand as opposed to dirt. So it's not as strong.
So what can you do if you're interested in helping Burlington Island stay devoted to its natural roots?
You can go to friendsofburlingtonisland.org and you can make a donation. You can join as a member, $15 a year. And what you're getting with that, you're knowing that you're really helping a cause that is very noble, very worthwhile.
I'd say to contact us, and we'll find out what you like to do the best, and we'll work with you to help you make, your life very enjoyable on the island. That's what we'll do.
Throughout all my research on this project, I spoke to dozens of people, and they all shared one thing in common: a similar love for Burlington Island.
It was a wonderful place for the kids to grow up. I mean, everybody I know, their kids still talk about it. My kids still talk about it. They're grown, and they have kids that are big, and they were never there. Only my kids were there, but my kids still talk about the island.
It was just a great time. I wish everybody could have grown up on the island. I mean, I really do.
I love this place, and I want everyone else to love it too.
Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Destination Anywhere. Before I go, I want to give a special thanks to my tag team partner, Charlie Forsyth. To see some of his work, follow CB4 Visuals on Instagram. I also have to thank the numerous people that helped in production of this video. Without their time and generosity, we wouldn't have been able to put this project together. Finally, don't forget to follow me on Instagram. And subscribe to the Mickey Shuffle on YouTube to see more New Jersey history and mysteries.